I'm Professor Normal Ranunculus, here for a Transfigurations lesson. And this is my assistant, Appendo. And today we are going to learn how to make junk journals. So here are a couple that I made. A little bling on the outside. These have stitching. The ones that I'm going to teach you how to make are sew free. So no sew journals. And these journals are made out of, well, junk mostly. I have leftover scraps of scrapbook paper and magazine pages and more magazine pages and envelopes and piece of parchment from the kitchen and whatnot. And the outside is made with, dun-da-da, a cereal box. So literally, that's how you get that shape. And these two, I just used a double layer cereal boxes. You could use one, but I just think it's sturdier if you use two. And then we'll learn how to fill them probably next week. Both these books, and I can maybe tag extra videos if you want to see flip-throughs of these and what's in them. But these do use scrapbook paper because I'm a big scrapbooker, so I have scraps, a lot of scraps, and I just throw them in. I'm figuring most people do not have scrapbook paper, and therefore we are going to make true junk journals and only use junk. Or if you have some regular copy paper, that'll work. So here's a piece of paper. This is a recycled piece. It's our former minister, Barbara Merritt, who's now emerita, and the Diane Myrick, who was a religious education person here for many, many, many years. Will Sherwood's the only one who's still here. So this paper would normally be thrown out because, let's face it, it's got the wrong names on it. But I keep all this stuff because it's great for crafts. And this is one that I've dyed with coffee with layering and doily. So we'll talk about that next week. But now we need to make our covers. That's what we're going to do today. So James has his favorite cereal box here, which is Panda Puffs. Fabulous cereal. If you have to be gluten-free, you get it at Trader Joe's. Not that we're making an ad here. So you have to figure out what size you want your book. And honestly, it can be any size at all. In fact, if you don't have a cereal box, you can use recycled card. This is from a folder. This is an envelope box. There's a nice piece of card there. And it doesn't have to be this thick. It can be just a single fold where it's just a small notebook that you want to throw in your pocketbook, or even tiny one that you can stick in your back pocket. So it can be any size. It really doesn't matter. In fact, let me show you. I'm currently working on a scrapbook about my father. And I wanted to do it in sort of 5 chapters of his life. And so I pulled out the papers I wanted to use, and I had these 5 little sort of things this size, and it was working great until I started to actually do them, and then the things that started off very small got very thick because I was decorating them with everything. And lo and behold, the original spine, which I had in here, was way too small, and I had this very funny looking book because it was, you know, looking like that. So I had to take the whole spine off. I cut it off. I put some duct tape in and put a new spine on it. So you don't have to go with this size because you can go a small one. And actually, these are both the ones that I showed you before. Are the actual, just the fold of the cereal box. But since then I found, this is a piece of, I love this. You guys ever drink this tea? It's a green tea, Arizona, anyway. Yeah, so, what am I saying? So yeah, it's just a cereal box, but I find now that I like it better if I actually do cut the spine and then I use tape or fabric or something, and I'll show you how to do that in a bit. So anyhow, put this guy back together, kind of, sort of, move him out of our way. Okay, so Appendo is thinking that he wants his book to be about the size of a regular piece of paper. That way when he goes to put paper in it, it's going to fit normally. So you probably want it just a little bit larger so you have a slight bit of an edge, because that way the papers, if they stick out or if you add ribbons or something, it doesn't get too messy and things don't get torn. So looking at this, that's a neat inside of your box. So he might want to keep this as the inside cover of his book, because that looks really cool. It's how to draw a panda, you have a little panda trivia with a crossword puzzle, how to be a wildlife defender, very cool. Okay, so let's say this is the size he wants. He's going to go slightly bigger. I could probably just follow that line right there and go along here. And I don't get too exact with things. Some people like to measure. I'm not big into measuring, so I just don't. I do whatever I like, and honestly, I think part of the charm of handmade things is that lines aren't perfectly straight, and it's obviously handmade. But you don't, I'm not saying make it sloppy, I'm just saying if it's a little quirky, that's kind of nice. That's my opinion. Other people have other opinions. They're allowed. Of course they're wrong, but you know they're allowed. So, if you take your cereal box, you figure out what size you want to do it, and then you're just going to cut your size. And since I said I like to have 2, you can use this one, Appendo, be your pattern for the next one, right? And then you'll have 2. And you can glue them together. It's just nice to have 2 because they're stronger, but like I say, you don't have to be. I mean, you can have sort of a floppy cover, and that's kind of nice sometimes too. So, it doesn't matter. That's the beauty of junk journals, is that it really can be anything that you like. So how is everybody today? I hope you're all good. This is a great activity during the pandemic because we're just using trash. We don't have to go out and buy almost anything. I would suggest that you have scissors, and I would suggest that you have glue. I think it's helpful to have both just white glue. Oops, I have a little brad here. White glue, here's some white glue, and some glue stick, which of course I don't have with me right now, but that's okay. For today, I might be using this glue only because it dries really quickly, but you can use just regular school glue, and it won't matter. Okay, and then save all these lovely pieces of scrap because nothing is trash. It's just awesome. Look at this, look how different the color is from these 2 cereal boxes. And it's not like this one was out in the sun, it's out, it's the inside of the cover. It's just a printing difference, that's very interesting. Okay, now, Appendo has his cover pieces, and you should be making your cover pieces, and I thought I would make myself some cover pieces. My thinking right now is that I have all these cards that people sent me, and they're beautiful cards from when my father died, and I thought it would be nice to make a little book from. When I was visiting my mom in Maine, I made her a book. Of course, her book is like this thick because she has, you know, more friends than I do. What can I say? She's more popular. But anyway, so I made her one to keep all the cards, and I thought, oh, I should do that for me too. So, let me see here. This, I think, is my biggest card, so that's how I'm going to gauge how big I want. It's a little smaller than James's. All right, but that's the size I'm going for. Right. Now, on your cereal box, you're going to notice that there's one side that's glued. That's the side I always take it apart on because I have an extra seam that you don't need. Like if I had this be my edge, then I've already got a point at which it's weaker. Well, this one's not very weak. It doesn't want to come apart at all. But I will just cut it. See that? I'm flexible. I'm going with the flow. So, once you cut out your box, James, you want to glue yours? Do you want this on the inside? I kind of like that. But I don't want to tell you what to do either. Now, because yours inside is inside, it's going to be a tiny bit sticking out just from the actual thing. I don't think that matters. We could cut these pieces and glue them separately, but I think we'll just go with that, right? Do you want to spread glue and do it the old-fashioned way? I should get you a brush. Hold on, and I'll get Appendo a brush. Okay, Appendo, here you go. Have a brush. So you can brush that on there. If you don't have a crafting table, I would suggest putting down parchment paper, wax paper. Some people use newspaper, but you know, honestly, then it just sticks to your project, and I don't like to use paper on paper. So that's why I'm saying something that is easier, or if you have like a craft mat or something, I like that better. Okay, I'm going to move my beautiful cards out of the way so that they don't get wrecked while I'm crafting. And I've measured this one, right? So now I just need to cut some more pieces so it will be stronger. Yeah. And then I can do just what Appendo's doing. So did you guys find some scrap card? I hope so. Now I probably don't need mine this thick, but maybe I will do it this size anyway, and then I can add some space or envelopes to put in maybe my father's obituary, or maybe I saved my siblings and I, because it was during the pandemic and we couldn't just be there. My siblings and I had a long chain of emails, so maybe I'll print those out and put them in the book. It's just a memory of what we were going through during the pandemic when our parents were sick. So my mother broke her hip. My father was already hospice in the house, but of course since my mother was his caregiver, that made it a little tricky since she was in the hospital with a broken hip. So anyway, life gets interesting, doesn't it? I am very blessed to have wonderful siblings, and I have to say, everybody really was fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Which is mostly a credit to my parents, who are fantastic. Okay, so here we go. I have my two pieces. Now, do I want to keep them this way? I think I do, but just for the sake of demonstration, I'm going to cut my spine apart and show you that even if you didn't have a cereal box and you had some other kind of card, you can still do this. You just need to cut two flat pieces and a spine piece, or in my case, 4, since I'm going to be doubling it up. Oh, okay, Appendo, awesome. So Appendo's done his spine, but you actually want to do the whole thing, Appendo. And this glue is watered down because I've actually been using it for decoupage type stuff, but I think it'll work. So there it is. So we're going to spread it out to all the edges. You want to make sure your edges are really good because you don't want it peeling apart, right? As time goes by and you're using it. So here we go. I'll put this one on top. How are you guys doing? Are you up to this step? We're putting on that. That still is going to open. We might want to trim down those little bits where it sticks out extra when it's dry, but I'm not going to worry about it too much now. So that looks awesome. So now, if you want to get some paper towels and clean up the table, that would be awesome. And I'm just going to sort of burnish this so that it's nice and stuck. And there are no air bubbles in there. Okay, beautiful. If you have a credit card or a bone folder, you can kind of scooch it along there, and that works too. Okay, so Appendo's going to clean that mess. I'm going to demonstrate how to do this. If you don't have this natural fold in your paper, or you've got only small pieces to work with, and so you have to do it in like multiple pieces. All right, so what I'm going to do, there are several options here. You could use duct tape. Duct tape is super strong. You tape your pieces together, and it actually makes a nice hinge. It'll actually last longer probably than just the paper, which eventually will wear out. Another thing that lasts really long is fabric. So if you have any, like, you know, you're throwing out a shirt or something, save some fabric because it's awesome. This is probably long enough that, yeah, I could do this. I have a fabric hinge. Another thing that's really durable is if you get a mailer, this stuff here, it's like impossible to tear. It absolutely will not tear. So if you peel out the inside poppy stuff, save this. This is really great for printing. You can maybe do that next week. And then you can use this as your hinge, and it's almost indestructible. But you're going to need a strong glue if you do that, like a silicone type glue. So those are three options. I think for the speed of today, we will just go with the duct tape method. My worry about duct tape is that after a while, it loses its stick and falls apart. But I think if it's sandwiched in between everything, maybe we'll be okay. So I'm going to put one piece there. And I'm going to leave a slight gap so that it has room to do that flexing, right? That hinge. Do you see that? I left a little gap there. I'm going to do the same on the other side. Awesome. And I'm going to add another. Do I know which one? I don't know which one this goes with. I didn't cut that very well, did I? Do I care? Not really. I'm not a perfectionist. Okay. I tell myself that, and then I spend hours trying to perfect something. But you know, I don't know. It's weird. Are you guys? Sometimes you're like you really care about some things, and some things you're like, oh, I like it sort of quirky. That's me. Okay. So now I have one beautiful hinged part, and I want to make another beautiful hinged part. So I think maybe if I put this in there, maybe I can do it this way. Doesn't matter. Probably not. I'm going to use this glue because it's going to be faster. All right. This glue, it's almost like a hot glue gun. Instant hot glue gun without the hot heat. This stuff, it's a little smelly, but it's very, very strong. And it dries almost immediately. All right, so I'm going to put this here, match up my edges maybe. I don't know if I didn't cut them very straight, they won't match. There we go. I'm going to really, really rub that. Awesome. I'm going to do this piece. Okay. So do you guys have your pieces cut out the size you want? Are you doing this method, or are you just doing the regular, just fold it in half? It's the easiest thing in the world. It's like, how do you do a lesson on cutting a cereal box and then you're done? Exactly the shape it is. Just cut it and it's done. All right. I love reusing junk. It makes me feel so good that it's not going into a landfill or something. I really didn't cut that one straight, did I? It's going to be, I wonder if I do it this way, if it's going to make a difference. Yeah, I like that better. It's still really crooked. Really, really crooked. Okay, good. So, here is mine. And I now have a nice flap. I like that. I may even redo my on this side. And then I can show you the no-sew method. I can't even speak today. For creating a book. So books have something called signatures, which are basically like how many bunches of paper get put together. That was a really bad explanation, but I will show you. So here we go. I have a bunch of papers. I've stuffed one inside the other, right? This is I found this in when we were cleaning out closets and stuff. Nate did this. I don't know which Nate, I don't know what year it was. It could be 20 years old. A little doily, some tracing type paper. Ooh, shopping bag, isn't it awesome? This is actually, I found a bunch of these. This is napkin. This is a paper towel, not a napkin. This is a paper towel that I use to wipe up stuff after I did painting. And I have a whole bunch of them and they're all green, so that's beautiful. This is a piece of wallpaper. This is a piece of a book page that fell apart from a book. Mouskin, I love that book. Little writing paper that I splashed stuff on. This is parchment paper or in the kitchen. This is an envelope. Okay, so you get the idea. So you have all your papers and they're all together. And inside, if you find the center, normally a book is made like this. You have these different sections and then they're sewn in. But we're not going to sew because that's a lot of work. And some of you may not know how to sew, and some of you, don't want to use a needle and something sharp. So you need some kind of string. I'm going to use a rope here. I'm going to use a rope. How's yours doing? Is it drying funny? After it's dried a little, I would put a book on top of yours so that it dries a little flatter because cardboard sometimes curls. The nice thing about putting 2 layers in is and the wet part, the glue is on each top, is that they counter curl if you have 2 layers. So one is curving this way and one's curving this way, and they'll go flat because they're together. Right? Does that make sense? Sure it does. Okay, so I think I have about 16 cards, but I might want to add other stuff. So I'm going to say that I'm going to use, maybe I want 18 spots. So I'm going to take my thread and I would go around this. There's 2, and I would go around 18 times. Does that make sense to everybody? Now, you may not want to do this right now. You noticed I showed you the one that I'm making about my father's life, the 5 chapters and how I had to redo the spine. Well, I know that I only want 5 things on the spine, but I still didn't do it because I don't like the spine still, so I'm going to have to figure out a way to, well, I just dropped out all the insides. But here's this book. Here's the spine, right? When I made it larger, I used this piece of fabric. Actually, there's 2 pieces of fabric. This is chinos for my husband underneath to make it strong for the hinge, and then I put this on top. But now I don't like this fabric because it's too brown, and I wanted it more antique-y or something and neutral. So I'm thinking that I'm going to need, I found this piece of scrap of lace, and I think it's long enough. Yeah. I may use this and kind of cover that. I don't know. So anyhow, since I haven't decided how I want this to look yet, I haven't put my thread on. Now it's possible that I want to put the thread on and then cover the thread, which will hold it and make it more secure on this side. But I haven't decided yet. So you can do this step, or you can wait until your book is all ready to go and you know exactly how many signatures you have, and then you do it. It's very flexible, but I'm just showing this so you know how to do it. So I wasn't counting really, but let's suppose I have 18, even though I know I don't. I probably have, I don't know, 10 or so. I've got it to this point. Maybe I shouldn't cut it because I don't want to waste it. All right, so I've got it to this point. And I'll cut it, who cares? And I'm going to go under on this side and under on this side. And then I'm going to pull them together and go under again and just tie it in a knot or a bow. And that's going to be like this. And then the inside of my book, every time I have a signature that I want to add, and these won't fit in there because they're too big, of course. That was a bad example. Oh, let me grab my cards. Okay, so inside, every time I have a signature, let's pretend this is a whole clump of papers. Maybe I'll put a couple together so you can see it. When I do this, I won't do this because I want each one separately so you can open it. But all you do is you slide it into that rope or in that thread, and then it's in there. It's in the book. And so you have all of them. And the beauty of this is that when you're working on your journal and say you want to write something on this page, you can just slip out that one page, write something, or do something, or craft on it, or paint on it, or anything, and you won't get stuff on this, and it won't be bulky and uneven and a weird writing surface. And then when you're done, you slip it back in. So that is how you make a junk journal. And next week, we'll talk about how you get fancy papers and what to use. And we'll dye some paper, and maybe we'll even try making some faux handmade paper, which is really fun. It's nice to cut into tags. It's just cool because it's got a texture. So I'll see you next week. Bye.